Pugh. Pugh! That'll do it! That will do it! Pugh for Bournemouth! The roof of the Gold Sands is raised! Everyone here knows what that could mean to this football.
Oh, that wasn't very good, was it? Bournemouth lost 1-0 at Adams Park against the Chairboys today. A fourth-minute strike from Ikpeazu gave all 3 points to the Chairboys. And whilst it's not mathematically impossible, it pretty much is. Fair play. They did a good job in the Championship this season. That looks like they're probably going to go down. But for Bournemouth, where's our momentum? Yeah, I suspect what it'll do is play the players that are going to be playing in the playoffs next week against Stoke. So maybe the break will do them good. But when we're looking for squad depth, it's kind of worrying because the players that we brought in today just didn't really perform. And here's a person that's going to talk to us about it, pod regular, Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how are you, sir?
I've spent a really frustrating afternoon watching a load of tosh.
It was really poor, wasn't it? And
really
what
poor.
were the stats?
Well, first shot on target. I mean, if you count, Brooks was unlucky, with his chance, but 90th minute when Shane Long's header was easily saved by the keeper, and that's the 90th minute. I mean, this is against Wycombe, and we've got Jack Wilshere on the pitch, and I don't get it really. I don't get it. It's baffling how we give the ball away so easily. We just look so poor in possession, so slow. Really, really worrying. And
as Cameron said, we must beat Stoke in order to avoid Brentford. I'm not quite sure of the connotations. We'll check out the league tables and who's playing who later on in the show as well. But yeah, we must, and we need to bring back Dom Solanke. We don't want players going into a semi-final, pretty cold, and that's what they probably would be. If we don't play them against Stoke. But it's scary when we, bring in players that we think are going to be good. We're talking about the squad depth that we got. We think, oh, brilliant, Jack's coming in, Sam's coming in, and Roro's coming in. But really, they had no positive benefit today. And we were favourites at one stage, not so much anymore, eh?
No, I don't know really. We need to have those players back and firing. Obviously, and we are a better team with those front three than the front three that started today. Although Junior, his touch was poor today. Brooks, his touch was poor. Stacey's distribution was awful. And we play so slowly against teams that defend deep against us. It's all about having the ball in our own half all the time, without actually thinking, you've got to score a goal, you've got to create chances. And where was the plan to do that? I don't know what Woodgate would have said to them today. Surely, I mean, did you see Rico make an overlap in that second half?
No.
Stacey gets up and down a bit, but Rico is like, he's not bothered, is he? And I just despair a bit that you expect players to be playing for a place in the squad next season, or for a place off the bench in the playoffs, but they just didn't seem bothered, that lot that came in today. Roro had some good moments, but just really poor, really poor.
Is this the problem that we've always had, in that we change that many and then we are pretty poor? The mentality is soft. I mean, all those players, we know that, they would get into any other Championship first 11, but sometimes I think they're too good and they just don't work for it. And when we made so many changes today, almost like Jason Tindall did with his over-rotation, and look, we play absolutely poor. There's no consistency there.
Yeah, and it did feel a bit like one of Eddie's sort of FA Cup games against Millwall, that one where we got stuffed 3-0, was it a few seasons ago, and we played 9 changes. And it did feel like that the players had never played football with each other before. But even so, the attitude and the quality of player on that pitch, the attitude of the players to be first to the ball, to win those 50-50s, there was none of that. I mean, the first goal in the 4th minute, we're trying to play the ball out from the back. Junior tries a fancy flick
Oh,
in
man.
our own half. In our own half, Junior. What are you doing? It doesn't come off. They get the ball in our half, going forwards. Mepham looks rusty, doesn't make a tackle. I mean, he looked rusty for much of the game, I thought. And the guy scores a worldie. Well, fair play to Wycombe, because at least they had shots. They know that they have to score. To score goals, you have to have a shot, and they did so. And then when we get the chances, I mean, the skill of our players, I don't know what it is. We get a sort of red mist that comes over us when we get into that penalty area zone, where we lose total control of the ball and what we're trying to do with it. Junior jumping way too early to head that ball. Mepham missing 2 absolute sitters, where if he's, use your flipping brain, you dummies. I mean, that's what I want to say to them. Football's not a hard game. If you play football, you play as a professional like they do. You should have a modicum of expertise to be able to read how the ball is going to freaking bounce.
Well, I'm glad you're not using social media this weekend with language like that, Jeff. Dummies. That's you've crossed the line. Right, we got Morgan's waiting, and Daniel, and also Robert from AFCB Latvia. We're going to bring them in shortly, but Aaron and Andrew are both with us as well. Andrew, your face says it all, mate.
I was looking at your face, Sam. Exactly how I feel. Oh my! It was horrible, wasn't it? It was a hard, horrible watch. It's like so many bodies on the floor. It's like watching rugby union, rugby league. It was just. And then you see Stan got injured and he went off, and then Jack Wilshere was down, and hard. I mean, just a hard watch, just horrible game of football. Is it a bit like, as you said, Jeff, that game at Millwall away, the 3-0 FA Cup game? It's just like that. In fact, it was like the game we played them at home, the game at home where we got through with a late Junior goal, but ugly game. And at the end, we've got Sam up front and Shane Long, and we're just hoofing the ball aimlessly. We weren't going to score. We just weren't going to score. There was that Brooksy chance, bit more composure. I mean, he had time. I think he, let the defender slide in and then just tap it in. I mean, it was brainless. I think, Jeff, you called it. We didn't use our brains. I think we went down to their level. We were just committing a lot of fouls. I mean, how many times does Surridge have to push a guy over? Then they get a free kick. They lie down. It's just horrible, sort of broken up. It's just horrible. Sorry, horrible afternoon. But I still think, having said that caveat, I think it was right to rest, Danjuma and Dom, because if they had got injured, then it was a physical game. I think it was the right decision on balance to do that. I mean, but it led to. I mean, we got what we deserved, really, didn't we? You reap what you sow. It was a bit of a mess. So. Not a nice afternoon, but the sun's just come out, so we'll go and do some gardening and relax.
Well, that's one way to brighten up. Aaron, talk us through that. It was not great, eh?
I don't know why any of us are surprised. I was having a bit of chat, and Jeff was sort of agreeing with me before the game. We're going to go one of two ways today. He was going to either rest 6 or 7 players, which is what he did, and our best players are a couple. Other than say Pearson, Carter Vickers, and Brooks, I think he rested all our first choice, and Begovic obviously. Or he was going to go strong with momentum. He chose the first option, which is fine because I think you can argue either way. I've got my thoughts on that, but let's go with the fact that he went for that option. Why are we surprised? Jeff alluded to it already. We've seen it time and time again with Eddie when he put in the FA Cup 11 players who are more than capable of playing excellent football. When you put them all together at the same time, there's no continuity. There's no, and so I was not at all surprised. I know everyone's frustrated. I was getting frustrated during the game, but what was I surprised? Absolutely not, because if you put any of those players in with the other 10, they'll do a very good job. But when you put 6 or 7 of them together, you got no chance. Yeah. And it summed up for me when Stan went off injured and Anthony came on. No disrespect to Jayden Anthony, it's great to see him have a run out. There was obviously no care for today's result at all, bar from resting those players, as I said, which is absolutely fine if we're going to do that. What we now have to do, for 2 reasons. Number one, we have to win next week. Otherwise, we're going to end up playing Brentford in the semi-finals. Some may prefer that over 2 legs, others wouldn't. If we win next week, we're now guaranteed to play Swansea, which is what we all want.
Right.
The other positive is we now cannot play Barnsley until the final, which I think is our best chance against them. So that's another positive. So the way the results went today, we win next week, we play Swansea, end of story. He has to, in my opinion, now play the starting 11 against Stoke. He could obviously not, and then they go in no injuries, but to play 3 or 4 weeks without that team, we're going to seriously undo all the good work of those 7 wins if we don't get momentum. There's 9 days in between the Stoke game and the first leg. I just hope that we regain that momentum and that those 11 players click, because they also haven't played for a couple of weeks or whatever it might be, or actually even 3 weeks, I think now, since the Millwall game until the Stoke game. So if they take a bit of time to click, then it will be the wrong decision. So I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. It might have been the right decision today. I wasn't surprised, but he has to play that starting 11 next week against Stoke. Otherwise, I fear that our momentum is gone. I think Barnsley might have run out of juice. Swansea scraped past Derby. Brentford looking ominous, but Watford played a weakened team. But let's just win next week. Then it's all good again. We play Swansea in the playoffs, which hopefully doesn't come back to bite me. But I think that's the team we want to play. And then it's Brentford or Barnsley in the final.
Yeah.
Jeff, closing comments before you go, mate?
I really pray that we turn up against Swansea in those semi. I think you're right, Aaron. I think we'll get Swansea in the playoff semis, and whether it's home or away first, I think we ought to have enough to beat them. Although the danger of this sort of performance is it gives other teams confidence when they see us and think, you know what, if we niggle Bournemouth, if we get in their faces a bit, if we throw ourselves to the floor whenever they touch us and get free kicks and break up their rhythm, they are beatable. Oh, and if we stick the ball in the box and have a few big lads up front, they don't win anything. That is the worry that it just gives other teams a boost, and we can ill afford that because we know how fragile our lot are. They're not the strongest mentally. I'm bullying them again, everybody, but they're not. And games like today, we're very fragile. If our confidence goes and we turn up like that against Swansea and think they've got a chance, they might beat us and we'll have ourselves to blame. Anyway, there you go. Rant over.
Cheers, Jeff. I'll enjoy chatting with you very soon, no doubt, to dissect that.
Will you?
Oh, great. Happy weekend to us. Cheers, Jeff. We're going to bring in Morgan now, who's been standing by as well. Morgan, how are you?
A bit deflated after that, if I'm honest with you.
When you bring in players that are fringe players, you really want to see them fighting and showing their desire and thinking, actually, consider me. But, Roro did all right. Apart from that, though, you're sort of really struggling to look at players who have really changed Woodgate's mindset with regards to that, first 11 that he's going to put out in the playoff semi-final. How did you analyse today's performance, Morgan?
Fair play to the opposition for actually giving it a go. Credit to where credit's due. I thought we went into the game quite cocky and arrogant. We can make all these changes, and it's obviously not worked out in our favour. It's just, I think what we have to remember, and Aaron was saying, we have to start our semi-final opponent match day squad, the 11 next week against Stoke City, because if we don't do that, you can't be mucking around with it. Yes, I understand that he's given people a rest and it's been a very, very long season. Let's not forget that. But I think we're getting to the point now where we need to get our squad back together and remember anything is possible. And just remember what Woodgate said to them over that 7-game winning streak, and just show a bit more fight and determination. I just found it flat. I found yours and Tom's watch a lot more interesting than the actual match. And that isn't to sound disrespectful, but it was just, I was sat watching the game and I thought, is there an idea? Is there a dynamic? Is there anything? Does anyone want to make a tackle? Does anyone want to score a goal? And it just seemed like, not a waste of time, but there was just no ambition to try and do any more than, I don't know. It's really hard to analyse a game, especially when we have been doing so much better. And it just reminds me of the beginning of the season where there was just no care and no effort again. And I really, really, for the sake of me, hope that we don't go back down that road. I think they need to go home tonight, think, okay, today's been a couple of tricky days at the office, and then they think again, and then from Monday, the attitude changes. They got 9 games before between the Stoke game and the semi-final, or on May the 17th. That may be a 6 o'clock kickoff or a 8:15 kickoff. I'm not sure yet, but they have to change their attitude, and it can't be all this cocky. We're Premier League. We have to try and find another bit of a nitty-gritty result, a bit like Norwich, where we went there and we didn't do very well, and then we turned it around in the second half and gave them a bit of a rocket. And I think we need to go back to that, if I'm honest with you. It sounds negative, but I only want the best for the football club.
Yeah, would you say, Andrew, that it wasn't necessarily Woodgate making any bad decisions today? It was the players that just didn't turn up, because ultimately you can see why he did it by resting Tanji and Solanke, because we wouldn't want those players to get injured in like in a match like today.
It was the right decision, I think. I agree with Aaron. I think it was the right decision, but that did mean we lacked intensity, we lacked cohesion. It was disjointed. We didn't play as a team. There were a couple of nice moments where I think Jack Stacey went down the right wing and crossed in a couple of nice moves, but we had one shot on target, and I think that was a sort of tame shot near the end. But I mean, totally understandable. I think in fact, it made me smile before the game looking at everyone's predictions. It was 5-1, 3-1, 4-0, but like Aaron, for me, it was totally. I think I put 1-1, so I was wrong too. But I didn't see us smashing them with that team. I didn't. Our first team, absolutely, but I didn't see us smashing Wycombe, and they did what they do best. They broke up the game. They're very physical. They throw themselves around, and they did a job on us. So I think we're a bit, I'm not going to say naive, but it's just one of those frustrating games. It's a dead rubber. It reminds you of those sort of, the Rugby World Cup where you're in groups, and then you might qualify with a game spare. So the last game's a dead rubber, and you put on the reserves, and you might be playing Fiji, and it's sort of a dead game. It doesn't really matter. It was one of those games. So yeah, I guess the key thing is we didn't suffer any injuries, I don't think, to key players. That's the main thing, and we go again next week. So I think that 7-game winning streak, we had a very high level of intensity, and you're right, Morgan, that game at Norwich, we were on it, and we maintained that for 7 games. If you slightly dip below that level, we're not quite good enough to win. So we've dipped a bit, understandably, because we've qualified now for the playoffs, but we've got to get back on it. It's a key week, and we play the first team on Saturday.
Do you think that? Sorry, Aaron, I was just about to ask before we come. We've always known the substitutes that are going to come in. We can always predict what's going to happen during a game, like 60, 70 minutes in. But we were chucking in like players like Roro today that haven't played in a while. Do you think it's a case of Shane Long? Do you think it's these players almost went into the game pretty cold because Woodgate was so we had the same team time and time again. So maybe, maybe it's no one's fault, Aaron.
Well, no, it'd be interesting to see what Jonathan Woodgate says after the game, and I mean that in the nicest sense of the word, because I don't think any of us blame him, but it'd be interesting to see what he actually says, because he could have phoned Dan Juma on, but he didn't. He chose not to. But I think it's really important about mindset, because when Eddie had his starting 11, which was his starting 11 in the Premier League, we all got a bit annoyed with the players in the FA Cup because they didn't seem to put it in. But sometimes, these players today know that they're not going to be in the starting 11, however well they play. And we always actually that not criticism of Eddie, that's the wrong word, but they had that issue. Eddie had that issue that he brought players in certain games, but they knew they would be straight out, however well they performed. And I wonder if there was a bit of that today from some of the players, potentially knowing that they know that they're playing today because he doesn't mind if they get injured to the same extent. And one other thing, actually, which was mentioned to me, which is a bit freaky, is that it was a glimpse into next season if we don't go up potentially without some of the players who were, because that's what worries me. If you haven't got Jeff, you haven't got Arnie, Billing, and Steve Cook and Adam Smith are out of contract. So if they go, this is what we're left with, and it's a little bit worrying.
Yeah, it is. Andrew, thanks so much for coming on today, mate. Really appreciate it. Cheers, buddy. And also Aaron as well. Thank you so much for taking part. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. See you soon, guys.
Yeah, will do, mate. Morgan, we'll leave you in for a bit because you came in a little bit later on. So we're going to bring in John Spark, who's with us as well, and also Daniel from Florida too. John, how are you, mate?
I'm fine, to be honest. I mean, It's weird because I can't remember what it was. Second or third time I came on this podcast. I think I was the last guest on. It was you and oh god, I can't remember who else it was at the back. But I was being quite positive after a very negative performance, which was sort of at the start of a really bad losing streak of JT. Because in the end, I think I could have written the script for that game once I saw the starting 11, and I would have been bang on. Apart from, I think the goal was a lot better than I would have called it. And also, we made way more chances than I thought we would have done. The thing is that I think the Blackburn, it's funny because I look back to the Blackburn game where we won 2-0 with 2 pretty good goals. But apart from that game, we were absolutely dreadful. We really weren't very good. And yet on the response after this, it felt as though, I think a relatively measured response from everyone, just sort of say, hey, we won the game. It's one of those things. Whereas today, it really didn't matter. The result, the only thing that mattered was as long as Barnsley didn't win or Swansea didn't win. That was basically the only thing that mattered to make sure that we can at least get above Barnsley in the table today. But at the end of the day, you look at Stanislas's chance where he headers it over the bar, the ping pong that happened between Surridge and Stanislas in the first half, the Mepham first header, the second header, I think it's Jeff was talking about the fact that Mepham can't use his brain to judge whether a ball's going to bounce. I think that's an absolutely harsh statement on Mepham. With the pitch they were playing on today and the way that it comes and fires up at him, it's ridiculous to expect Mepham to get more than a half decent contact on that one. The first one where he had a free header, he definitely should have scored. And then Brooks as well, which I think not enough people are giving credit to the defender for putting in a great block on that one. But that's 5 pretty darn good chances. Most of the time when we make 5, 6, whatever changes in a game, we make less than 1 good chance. So despite the fact that was a really disjointed performance, which is completely expected, the cohesion will have dropped massively. Roro hasn't played in the number 10 for us all season apart from an FA Cup game, I want to say, or a Carabao Cup game, one or the other. He hasn't played number 10 all season, actually looked like one of the few good players on the pitch. And then the link-up isn't there between Stanislas, Surridge and Brooks, really. The play down the wings isn't coming off very well. I think Pearson had probably one of his poorer games, despite being one of the better players on the pitch. There's a hell of a lot of stuff that could have gone wrong in that game, and I think a lot of players came out with more credit than I would have expected with the starting 11. Again, like everyone said, it wasn't great. I'm not saying it was a good game to watch, because it wasn't. It wasn't a very good game to watch. But I'm just not so negative about that as everyone else on here. I'm really not. I think if you can easily go back, and Jonathan Woodgate will just say it was a free shot for some players. Wycombe had something to play for. We didn't really have anything to play for, and that attitude was sent out. I mean, you could argue that we want to get higher up the table and whatnot. Brentford had already taken 3rd. We couldn't take 3rd, so that didn't really matter. I just really do feel as though that really isn't going to affect the team as much as, say, the Brentford game. The Brentford game is one they really could end up dwelling on because that was very bad. Whereas this was poor, but it wasn't really planned to be anything good, I don't feel. I think whatever the result was, it didn't really matter. It's Stoke that really is almost the pre-season game for the playoffs, as it were. It's like that's where you put out the best team. Today could easily have ended up with any player getting battered by an aggressive Wycombe side because they had something to play for. Stoke do not. Stoke have 0 to play for, have been quite poor for a lot of this season. And really, I just want the players to just get into a rhythm again when they play again in that game and prepare for the playoffs. As long as we hit 5th or 4th and play Swansea, this result won't matter in the great scheme of things, and that's how I'm looking at it, to be honest.
Morgan.
Can I just say, John, if you don't mind, I really, really like your positive energy, and I think it's brilliant as a fan that you can feel amazing after that performance, and I think that's I think that's valid. That if John does feel that way, can I ask something, John? If Bournemouth slip up against Stoke, and I don't want to be a critic here, but if we don't win against Stoke and we end up getting Brentford in the semi-final, then would you see that as a problem, or would you see that as a challenge, or would you see that as staying in the Championship next season? Because I think momentum is very, very key, and to disrupt that at this crucial part of our season could be the difference if we're a Premier League club again next season or a Championship club, just to put a different dynamic on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, but I would say the momentum was gone anyway. I mean, how can you control momentum when you've literally just had your winning streak ended? Your momentum has literally been cut already. Brentford already stopped that for us, so there's no real momentum. I can understand that. I can understand the idea that okay, let's restart. And if you say we go in on a 2-game win streak as opposed to a 1-game win streak, then that's something, yes. But I would say, with the fact that you've changed the team up, it's a bit like having a cup game in between. It's like our momentum, our long league win streak started with Swansea. We lost in a very bad loss against Southampton, and then our winning streak in the league continued. So that actual very disappointing performance didn't stop the momentum that we built through in the league. So, yes, I can understand in the idea that, yes, okay, win today, and then we win on against Stoke and we push forward. But I'm more pleased, as Aaron mentioned, that he didn't bother risking the likes of Danjuma, of Solanke, and Billing, and played it a little bit lesser of a team on paper. But I still think there were certainly Roro was one positive I think I can take from that game. It's just a shame that he's well and truly behind Billing in the pecking order. So even if we did take up, if we have an option to buy, which I think we'll probably have something along those lines if we get promoted, then whether we bring them or not, I don't know, be an interesting decision to make. But I just, like I said, I just feel as though it's not really something that will be looked at in the greater scheme of things as anything more than just a blip in terms of how we want to then push forward to get promotion. I think a lot of people underestimate, because it's not FIFA out there. When you change 4 players, that's a lot of chemistry that gets changed. Particularly, I think Mepham will undoubtedly get harsh treatment again, probably from a lot of people on social media. I hope it's not overly harsh. Because in the end, it's like he may not have had a great performance, but he was actually played out of position as well. He was played on the left of the back too, which isn't his normal spot. That does mess with you as a centre back, even if trying to win a header and score, as he probably should have done, is more sort of match fitness, I feel. But look, there's plenty of ways you can look at that negatively. I just don't think there's really any point in it.
That's fair play. Morgan, thanks very much for coming on today, mate. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries at all. The mug's still intact as ever, so thanks for that, Sam. And I just wanted to say before I go, if that's okay, man of the match, I can't think of anyone overly that deserves it, but I'm going to give it to Jadon Anthony, because when he came on, he seemed like very, very creative in what to score. And I know you can't, I think he got 27 minutes, if I'm right, but I think he put it, he just showed a bit of fight and determination, and I like that. And shout out to the under-21 for their win at St. George's Park the other day as well, because I thought that was top draw. Thanks very much, Sam.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much, Morgan. Really appreciate it. We've got Koa from Vietnam, who's going to be coming on very, very shortly. Looking forward to seeing him. And also Robert, too, from Latvia, which we're going to bring in very shortly. Whilst Daniel's speaking, actually, because Daniel, I'm going to ask you what you thought of that game today. Yeah, go on. Hit me with it.
It's like another thing. I'm not that disappointed because, number one, the big deal, it's not even our main team. So we play our main team, our next game, we can probably win. And that's another thing that a lot of people shouldn't be sad about. It's not even our main team. This is basically not even a bad form. This is just people that they know they're not going to play next game or in the playoffs, or if we go up to the Premier League, because they're subs. They're all subs, except for a couple of them. But I don't really think it's the player's fault. I think it's the manager's fault. Why would you make 7 subs? Why would you not even put someone there to at least get a point? At least Stan Jumer. Not even. It's like another thing. I don't want to be upset, because why do I need to be upset? We tried our best. We failed. It's not even our starting 11. So I'm trying to be positive, and hopefully we can just win the next one with our.
Yeah. But what if Danjuma got injured, though? What if Wycombe, mathematically, it was always going to be very difficult for them to stay up in terms of goal difference. I mean, they still can, but it's unlikely. But what if Danjuma got clattered by their right back and he was out for a number of games, though? That was always the risk. And that's why Jonathan Woodgate decided to rest these key players. So you can kind of see why he made those decisions, couldn't you, Daniel?
I could see it, but I think Aaron said it. We should have maybe rested a little bit. And a thing that I've been taking serious is ever since when Mark Pugh was in Kirk's video, Mark Pugh literally said it doesn't matter how much game time they get because they can still get injured in training. So I was thinking, does it really even matter if Danjuma gets injured? It does. It really does. But I feel like it will be no difference from training. So I feel like if we at least put Danjuma on, at least he could have assisted us with a little bit of help.
Man of the match today, Daniel, or players that performed relatively well for you?
I really like Riquelme. He was not that bad, and I feel like Jaden Anthony was pretty good. And my favorite part was, I'm not joking when I say this, my favorite part was literally when Jack Wilshere took off his shirt, gave it to the player, and the match was over.
Fair play. Daniel, thanks very much for coming on, mate.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. Really appreciate that. We'll keep you in for a bit, John, if that's cool. We got Robert from AFCB Latvia here. Robert, how are you, mate?
I'm good.
Let's see
I'm
this
good.
again. Let's see this. Is this me chatting to the Premier League? Oh, mate,
Yes,
it didn't feel like
next
it after
season.
today's performance. But anyway,
100%.
you just said on chat there that you're feeling pretty positive.
Yes, I'm not even sad or anything. We played like academy players. We didn't play like any, I don't know, Philip Billings. I guess if we play like Philip Billings or I don't know, like anyone that is in a first team, that would be pretty sad because like, playing those kind of players would be really sad. But we play like academy players, and it's like really good to see them playing because it's really nice to give them playing time. And like we had that 7-win row, and like we made like a big bubble that was like about to explode, and then we lost against Brentford, and that balloon exploded. And now we are starting to make that balloon again to the playoffs. Against Stoke, I really want to see all of those first team players. Just to train them now, just to get them in the shape. Just only just positive vibes. Like I don't want to say anything bad. Like that wasn't that bad. That wasn't that bad. I'm actually not disappointed. I really hope that in the playoffs we will get like Brentford. Oh no! I didn't mean to say that. I don't know, to get like Barnsley. I don't know who's in that too. I don't know. Someone easy. Yeah, Swansea as well. Easy. That would be really, really easy for us, to win this.
Don't say that.
Playoff.
Okay.
That's going to be made a
And-
meme. Like someone's going to clip that and put it on viral if it goes.
No.
Well, you know what? I mean, Swansea are the team that I would quite like to face as well, just because we've shown how well that we can play against them home and away. I think we were unlucky not to beat them at their place. We've got Cohen here as well, who's in Vietnam. And if you were watching the watch along, there he is with his TV in the background, and he is just joining us right now. Koa, hope you're doing all right. How are you?
Oh, hello.
How are you doing? Nice to see you on the podcast in Vietnam. Have I pronounced your name right?
My name is Khoa. You can spell it KHOA.
No, I cannot. There's a bit of a delay on the line. But anyway, what did you think of the game today, Koa?
Sorry, but I can see live of the match. I can see for the watch along with you.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. No worries at all. So, were you surprised by the fact that a number of our star players were left out, like Philip Billing and like Danjuma? Did that surprise you?
No, I'm surprised about that, but I don't know about his injury or something.
Yeah, completely. So, who would you like us to play in the playoff final?
Oh, I think not Brentford.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who we play. Fair play for joining us. Really appreciate it, mate. I appreciate that in Vietnam it's late. What's the time where you are?
It's 11:42 p.m. in Vietnam.
Fair play. Thank you for watching the watch along, mate. Really appreciate having you on. Top man, and nice to have you as a debutant. And there he is earlier watching the watch along there. Right, Keefy T's here, and we're gonna bring him in right away now. Keefy T, how are you, buddy? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I really enjoyed being down at the International Centre for the jab. I'm glad I missed this one out.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, mate, you've had a shave as well.
Well, I'm just following you, Sam. I mean, your stunning good looks and all that. And I thought, well, why not follow Adonis and get a shave as well?
I love it. Yeah, cheers, mate. Cheers. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you're jabbed up, mate. Excellent stuff. Really pleased for that. And as you say, I bet you're chuffed to bits that you missed that one because you've been reading all the out. Not great, eh?
No, it doesn't sound particularly great at all. Well, I don't know. How did they score the first goal? If anyone can just help me out there.
John can talk us through it. Go on then, John. Do your best, Clive Timson, for me.
So I think I can't remember how exactly the ball ends up in our back left corner with Rico on the ball. He passes up the line to Stanislas, who, rather than playing a simple 1-2 to Rico, who's moved inside to receive the ball, he tries a back flick and it gets intercepted right at his feet.
Yeah.
It falls to Ikpeazu, the Wycombe striker, who holds off Mepham. Mepham drops to cover the imaginary striker that's not there. Rico follows the fullback who has pushed forward, and Ikpeazu is about 25-ish yards out, puts it onto his left foot, which is his weaker foot, by the way, and it's an amazing goal. He curls it top left corner. Begovic has got zero chance and is undoubtedly his goal of the season. But it was a great goal, just could easily have been prevented.
Oh dear. Well, I suppose the thing is about today, we've given people legs, and it is concerning that some of our second tier players are not obviously playing to their ability. It's really difficult to comment on the game, but about momentum, obviously the Stoke game could set us up quite nicely. It would be nice to get back to winning ways, but regarding who we play, we've just got to play whoever it is, and we've got to look upon it equally as difficult challenges for each and every game, and they're going to be up for it as well. So I don't think it's our performances we've got to be thinking about, not really what Swansea are going to do, what Brentford are going to do, what Barnsley are going to do. It's up to us, and it's up to our determination and showing that we really want it. And we've got some really good players, who are in form, and I'm sure they'll be chomping at the bit to get back, maybe for the Stoke game, but certainly for the playoffs.
So everyone's feeling fairly positive and optimistic here. I mean, Robert, you're not feeling too bad about that individual performance, but it's important that the good performances start next week against Stoke, because we don't want to go in. I mean, we don't want to be playing the same team again against Stoke and then be starting our match against Swansea or whoever it is with players that are fairly cold. We want to hit the ground running, don't we?
We have to start that bubble. Like I said, we have to start blowing it at the Stoke game. We don't have to start it in a playoffs. We have to start it in a Stoke.
Yeah.
No, let's start blowing it.
Completely agree, Robert. Thanks very much for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it.
The Cherries. Come on, guys.
Cherries, top man.
Cherries.
And John, thanks very much for coming on today. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, just final little comment. I was just looking it up. I know half the people that watch this can't stand expected goals, but
go on. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, dear.
Infogol, who reliability-wise is iffy, but 2.53 expected goals on that. Last time we had a value that was that high as that was the last time we played Wycombe. The chances that we couldn't put away were really good chances. Even if the match itself was pretty poor, we actually restricted Wycombe to not that many good opportunities themselves, and we made a couple of sitters for ourselves that we couldn't put away. So, there shouldn't be too much negativity about the overall performance on that one. I feel as though we've definitely got enough to push us through to the to do well against Stoke and then push forward onto the playoffs.
But it is important that against Stoke, we certainly do a number on them, and we certainly hit the ground running, as I said to Robert. And if we do that, is it a case of just returning to your Dan Juma back in, your Dom Solanke, or do we maybe phase in those players, maybe have two of them in to give people like Roro a bit more of a chance, so that if they are needed in the playoffs, they can be ready? If you see what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love Roro to get more of a chance in there. I think actually in a number 10, I think he actually did really well in terms of like some of the little tricks. I mean, there was one Cruyff turn just inside our own half, and he did 3 players in the one turn, and it was wonderful to see. But he then took the ball nice distance, but then couldn't actually pick out the pass afterwards. It was quite a similar story to a lot of our games where our final third play kind of broke down. I think, personally, if I was the manager, I'd change it to the best team we can put out, because you want that to be the dry run of the next game. It shouldn't be Stoke should be an opportunity for us to build just that, just make sure that everyone's clicking and everyone can work into the roles that they were playing before. Beyond that, once you get to the playoffs, it's a little bit of a lottery, and we desperately need to be playing Swansea to get ourselves really the best chance that we've got into going to the playoffs, because it's all a lottery. And as much as we feel as though we definitely can beat anyone on our day, Brentford did take 6 points from us over the season. So, we don't want to be playing them more than we have to, ideally.
Brilliant. John, thanks very much, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on again, Sam.
Thank you. Keithy, you're going to stay on for a bit because we've got Captain K joining us now. All right, Kirk?
Oh, how you doing? You all right?
Without those stats, Kirky, I don't know anything about the game today, but I'm sure you'll be able to inform me.
We dominated possession again. 65%.
Brilliant.
Aerial battles lost massively, but we know that's been a thing all season. Interestingly, though, we had 80% accuracy on passing, which I would never have thought that. But yeah, there's your stats, non-interesting stats.
What was your overall view of that today, then, Kirk?
He's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. I said this earlier on in the week. It's a difficult situation for Woodgate. I would have played the best team today. I'd have gone fully strength with the Brentford loss last week. I think we could have got players like Solanke closer to 20. Dan Juma firing again after having a bit of an off day last week. And then I would have rested against Stoke. It's going to have to be the other way round now. The thing I worry about Stoke is they like a tackle. When I think of Stoke, they like a tackle. And if Dan Juma or Brooks get absolutely snapped or crunched, we're just going to be like, why did he do that? And he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. But now he hasn't played them. He's got to play them, because otherwise you're looking at like 16 days before they're going to get action again. And you're going to throw him into a leg one of a playoff semi-final. It's not the end of the world, but that is 2 consecutive games we've lost and 2 consecutive games we haven't scored.
We're all looking at squad depth. Jack Wilshere's on, brilliant. We've got players like Roro, excellent. He can stand and do a job. But you're looking at it now and thinking, well, when they start, they seem to be so ineffective compared to when they come on as substitutes. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to be happening for us at the moment. And whilst winning was a habit, is there any danger, Kurt, that losing is a habit?
Yeah, definitely. We won 7 games in a row. There's no reason why we can't lose 4 or 5. Jack Wilshere, I'm a massive fan of Jack Wilshere. Love him. Absolutely love him. But for whatever reason, and we've had this discussion before, he himself thinks he's a holding midfielder. I never, ever seen Jack Wilshere in my eyes as a holding midfielder. I want him further up the pitch in that billing role. It's not a cam. It's not a number 10. It's billing. Okay. I want him in that billing role because I think that's where you can get Jack Wilshere hurt in football teams. He's not a Lerma. He's not a Pearson. He's not a Hunter. He's not going to put, he will put a foot in, but not like them two do. I just think he's ineffective that deep. I don't see it for myself. And that's me being negative of a player that I absolutely love. What we do know, if everyone's fit, we know what the starting 11 is. I think we can pretty much name that. Outside of that, we got problems. And this is why I don't want to play Brentford in a one-off match at Wembley, because give me a coin and toss it, because that you're going to make some sort of episode out of that now, what I've just said, haven't you?
Yeah, I am. I was just thinking that. I had that in my head, right? Yeah.
That's how I work nowadays. I have to think of everything I say because you'll twist it. But it looks like we're going to play Swansea, which if we can't beat Swansea, we don't deserve to go to the Premier League. But if we don't have that starting 11 going into a game against Brentford, if they beat Barnsley, because you can't write them off either, that's going to be some serious nerves on that day.
So is it Brooks or Stanislas then on the right-hand side if we're talking our favoured 11? Is it Brooks? I mean, because we know pretty much everyone. Smith and Stacey, probably Smith. Brooks, Stanislas. Are we talking Brooks? Because if we are talking Brooks, he's still not hit the levels that we know he can reach. So there are still some weak players within our best 11.
It's funny, isn't it? Because if you listen to podcasts, they're going, look at Danjuma, look at Solanke, 15 goals, look at Billing, 8 goals, and every time Billing scores, we win a football match. And if they can get Brooks going, no one's going to beat Bournemouth. The problem is with Brooks, and I think it's been his whole career at Bournemouth, is we know the talent's there, and when he's on form, there's no one better. He just doesn't do it consistently enough. I don't know what that reason is. I don't know how you change that. But I always think with Brooks is when it's not happening like today, his head's down and he gets frustrated, and he almost beats himself up a lot, I find. When things are coming off, he blossoms, he smiles. Look at all the gifts that are out there of him scoring a goal against Chelsea and Palace, and and we love that Brooksy. It's just like you're never too confident whether that Brooksy's going to turn up or the one that beats himself up. It's Brooksy for me, though. It's Brooksy for me. The answer to your question is Stanislas has been brilliant this year. He struggles on the right. He played on the left today and struggled as well, really.
Yeah. Keith, how are you feeling about the playoffs? What kind of mentality is required? Because it's basically a new league, isn't it? Or, just a mini cup competition that is, 3 games. And hopefully it'll be 3 games for us. But, how does Jonathan Woodgate raise his players for this? Or, should he even need to?
He shouldn't need to. I think it should be apparent to all the players there that how important this little mini competition is. You've got to, this is the question mark about the team in general. And we were talking about Brooks, and I put up in the chat, actually, is it time for someone like Brooks to move on? Because he doesn't have that mental strength, that desire, that hunger to knuckle down and dominate a game. And there's a few players like that. Rico's another one. He seems to be mentally frail. Meps, of course, he's had a tough time recently. And it's that mental toughness that is required now going forward. And as Woodgate would probably tell them, they haven't won anything yet. It's all to play for. And if they want to be these great players and want to be on the big stage, they've got to show the mental fortitude. It's less and less now about formations and this, that, and the other. It really is down to their attitude, their desire, their passion for the game. Yeah. And by listening carefully to what the guys are saying, there's a number of players that are not showing that. Junior's gone off the ball recently. He's not showing the care and attention on the ball that you would want him to show, and we can rely on a few players: Solanke, Cookie, Lerma, Kelly. But if we get 1 or 2 injuries, the Stoke game is, the way they play, it's going to be physical. And we lose 1 or 2 of those players, then these other players have got to step up to the mark. And if they've not got it about them, then there's serious question marks. And I think that's probably the thing that's frustrating Woody, is the lack of bite about the team, a lack of, right, let's roll our sleeves up, let's get the job done. -17 season. look at the mental toughness that team had, and look at the promotion side for the from League One to promotion. Mental toughness was key to all of that, and this is a very talented team, but do they have the aptitude? Do they have that desire? Surridge, I don't know if he had a good game today, but he can go missing as well. So that is the concern. It shouldn't worry us who we play. It's how we view it and how we want it going forward.
He won a few free kicks. He slid in Paul Gascoigne-esque at the far post when a low cross just slightly eluded him. But other than that, I think it was one of his poorer games for us. But Kurt, we're looking at Junior Stanislas. We know he can take a set piece. We know he can take penalties. Is it around now where Woodgate should have him practicing pens in training? Because it could happen.
We're right with pens, aren't we? Because we've had 3 this season and we've scored every single one. Bearing in mind that's come from Junior Stanislas. But I think Solanke's taken penalties in his career for England and stuff, and Danjuma. I'd be confident that those type of players could step up if we need to go that far. Going back to Mepham, Keith just brought up Mepham. It's been a tough season for him. I'll be completely honest with you. I've never been a big fan of Chris Mepham. Even when he came through, £20 million, we paid for him, and he's had the odd glimpse where I've seen him in the stadium, and I thought actually he's had a good game, and I thought maybe there is something in there, but he's never done it over a large period of time. And I know he's been in and out under Eddie, and he was in and out as well under Jason as well. But he's had a year or a season that he's probably not going to want to remember.
You slightly paused there at the end, so we just about got the gist of what you were saying. Okay, let's talk about how confident we are. Keith, you have a percentage on how confident you are of getting promoted. I know that maybe wind back a couple of matches ago after our Norwich win or whatever, we would have been like 80% or whatever, 90%. Now, I don't know, I'm not feeling it as much. How are you feeling ahead of the playoffs?
I've tried to be level-headed about all this and take each game as it comes and see what happens. So I want to. I'm always 50-50. Sometimes I get excited, when we play really well and then we turn it on. But each game is a pub fight, isn't it? We have to fight each and every team that we're facing. So, fortune favours the brave, and we should go out and be brave, irrespective if we go out or not, or not make our objectives. But I don't know. I just remember Huddersfield all those years ago, and we were so close, and it really knocked the stuffing out of us in the following season until obviously Eddie came back. So it's Bournemouth, isn't it? And this is the life of a Bournemouth supporter. It could go one of either way. It could be absolutely brilliant, or we could be on our knuckles and knuckle dragging a little bit, but I don't know. So I can't. I have to say 50-50 at the moment. I don't know what's going to happen next week, or the week after, or the week after that.
4 games to go, Kirk. Can we do it?
Oh, it's hanging, isn't it, in the balance? If he has a full squad, and those first 11 that we pretty much know will start, if he does have that ability, we should be okay. And hopefully we can turn up on the big occasion. I think over 2 legs with the starting 11 that we want out there, we'll win the football match, or we'll win over 180 minutes, and then we'll get to that final. And hopefully they'll blossom, and those players, those Premier League talent that we always talk about, should turn up. But it is hanging in the balance. I've always said this, or I've said this for a while now, and you know this, Sam, is when he doesn't have that facility, or he's resting them, or he's protecting them, and he switches it up, we don't seem to get a positive out of it. He did it against QPR, lost. Cardiff, lost. Brentford, lost. Wycombe, lost. The big run of 7 wins, he didn't change anything. And that is what concerns me. And just sorry, Keith, just before you come in, on the flip side, to bring another positive in, if we are all worried about Brentford being the main team to worry about, they've been in 9 playoffs and never won one.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but that's been the tale of our season, is the lack of consistency. That's not just under Woodgate, that was under Jason, that was under Eddie last season. We either turn up for games or we don't turn up for games. And with regards to the Premier League, I kind of understand why, for the financial and the coverage, and it's a fantastic competition. But to do really well in it, you've got to be an absolute striving to be an elite club. And my worry is, going irrespective of what happens this season, if we went up to the Premier League, I look at the arms race that's going on up there. I mean, Tuchel, the quality between Tuchel and Lampard, it's chalk and cheese, and Guardiola is just taking football up to another level. You've got Bielsa, you've got Klopp, and this is not like when we went up the first time. They are really, really shit hot teams up there who are playing at a different level. And my fear is, even with our squad and the talent it is, there's a part of me that says I just feel as though not because I lack ambition, but I feel as though the club needs to be set up a little bit better to go and compete in those top levels. So, yeah, I'll be delighted if we went up, but I fear we'll be going straight back down again, because I just think, wow. I mean, you've got to congratulate Man City. They're on for the quadruple, and they're playing without a recognised striker, and look what they're doing. And I think, Jesus Christ, how are we going to compete with that? And I towards the end of our Premier League stay, the last 2 seasons, I just dreaded playing these teams, because you're not going to get anything out of them. And I would imagine Spurs are going to get in another manager. They were going to get Nagelsmann, but that's obviously out the window. And you're just saying, we're just going to get batterings after batterings after batterings. And is that enjoyable? At least for all our inconsistencies, it's been competitive for us next season. And what does that do, apart from cash? What does that do for us as a fan base? It's hard.
You've just highlighted the point there, though, Keith. I mean, I think it's been really refreshing this season in the Championship. I know we've not really been there, bar 2 games for a few of us that are fortunate. At the end of the day, no VAR. It's been refreshing. Football week in, week out. Especially, where we've not been allowed to do a lot, so we can watch Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Saturdays, etc. Yeah, and obviously going into games feeling like you're likely to win or have a chance at winning. I mean, it's really refreshing, and we wouldn't be that next season. But for the club, for the future, and for trying to get a training ground built, we need the Premier League. I love the Championship. I know it's not that the Premier League's the be all and end all. It's the fact of, for the future of the club, we need it. That's for me is the main reason.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We're going to wrap up there, guys, because we're nearly onto an hour. Keith, thanks so much for coming on. Glad you're jabbed up, mate. And hopefully see you on the next one, I'm sure.
I'm sure I will be. There might be a little visit, a little bit of a sheepskin coat guy coming along to watch your football games and shout at you, Clough-wise.
Oh, hello. Looking forward to that. Nice one, Keithy. Cheers, buddy.
All right, then, boys. Take it easy.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
See you later, Keith.
Cherries, thank you very much. Have we got football tomorrow night, or is it just Tuesday?
No, just Tuesday this week.
Oh, okay.
It's a stroke training. By the way, you got good fashion. I like in your wardrobe, mate. So I used to have 2 of these, but one went missing. I don't know where it went. But, yeah.
Anyway,
Tuesday, mate.
Tuesday. Excellent. Anyway, Kirk, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it, mate.
No, I really appreciate that. I hope your watch along went well.
No.
Considering.
It was awful. Thanks, Kirk. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. And remember, this is a social media free weekend. So the second look, that's your next dose of AFCB content here on Back of the Net, and that's going to be tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Can't imagine it'll be a pretty one, but what we'll do is try to take a look at the bigger picture, because I mean, let's be fair, based on that 90 minutes, it wasn't particularly good. Thank you so much to everyone in the comments today. And also, if you joined us for the watch along, fair play if you stuck with us. Anyway, until tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. See you then. Got the Cherries.